Ken Trahan along with Lenny Van Gilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNoah.com. Let's start with the good news. High school football state championships in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome Friday. 4, count them, taking place this Friday starting at 10 in the morning. Yeah. And ending, I don't know, sometime on Saturday morning in all likelihood. And we will have a couple of games for you broadcast, including the Division III state championship game, Riverside Academy against unbeaten Notre Dame, sometime around 1:30. And that one will air on WRBH 88.3 FM. And you'll want to join us for that one. More details to come. And then the Division I state championship game, we'll have that broadcast for you. It's Archbishop Rummel and Catholic of Baton Rouge, supposedly at 8:30, sometime around then anyway. As part of the original Friday Night Live from the Superdome, you'll want to listen in to that one on WGSO 990 AM. I said a mouthful.
You did. And it should be a great day of football with some very entertaining games and no shortage of stories here. You mentioned Riverside. They haven't been in 15 years. St. Thomas More, what a great opportunity for them to get back. Catholic High hasn't been in a quarter century. And, of course, you mentioned Rummel trying to win a third state championship in a 4-year span here. And that'll be a great way to cap off the evening.
And, of course, all the scores at SportsNoah.com, because we'll have the non-select semifinal games going on as well with live reports as part of the original and the scoreboard updates all night at SportsNoah.com. Turning to college football, well, it was an interesting weekend to say the least. One coach is gone. Another we thought was gone is not gone. He's still here. And another one, I don't know. We'll see. Curtis Johnson, no longer the head coach at Tulane. He was dismissed pretty much right after the game ended against Tulsa. The announcement came Saturday morning, but that decision had been made prior to the game, Lenny. The game had nothing to do with it.
The game had nothing to do with it. And, you know, his team played very well for the better part of 55 minutes, and they gave it away with 21 points in the last 7 minutes. They were up 10, gave up a couple of pick sixes. You know, tip your hat to that team for continuing to play with really not a lot to play for. Maybe they thought they were trying to save their coach's job, perhaps. But like you said, that decision had been made. And first things first, Tulane will have to find an athletic director before they find a football coach. That'll be the AD's first job, is to go out and hire a coach.
Everyone thought they'd hire an AD first and then let the AD make a decision on the coach, but this tells you they clearly thought they had to change directions and do so decisively, because a lot of other jobs are already open and the competition for a head coach will be stiff. In Baton Rouge, the soap opera played out and somehow Les Miles remained as head coach of the Tigers, much to the surprise of virtually everyone, including all the media nationally and locally, including his own players who carried him off the field, including the fans in the stands. Somehow, this all changed. You can read about it at SportsNoah.com. We can speculate forever about what happened, but the one thing that's certain is that regardless of who was responsible, the way this thing was handled was a 101 in how not to handle a situation of this magnitude.
Yeah, it was a PR nightmare. Let me add this first of all. You and I both have a lot of friends that work in the media relations department at LSU. This is not on them.
Nothing to do with them.
Nothing.
They're just doing their job and
right.
giving you what they give you. They had nothing to do with this.
Right. This starts with Joe Oliva and King Alexander. And this, you know, these stories have been out there. Some suggest they were planted out there, and you got to the
they
point.
just didn't get there by accident.
You're right. And, you know, like you said, they could have been diffused, and they weren't. And they let this guy dangle out there, and then all of a sudden, as the reports are, in the third quarter of the game on Saturday, they decide he's going to remain the coach. He's out there coaching a game, and his fate is getting decided.
Let me get this straight. The game's not over yet. It's a one-score game, not playing well offensively, against a team you've never lost to, and you made the decision then?
Yeah, well, I guess maybe that fake in the line to Fournette with the end around to Darius Geis was the deciding thing. Great call, Les. You can stay. You know, look, we can laugh about it now, but again, the fact is, it was not the way for it to play out. And maybe, look, we're in a different time and place now, where you've got, you know, social media and things like that, and you know how people feel about things and how things are being perceived out there. You don't have to wait until after you do something. You're literally finding out before and during, you know, how this thing should be. But, you know, and again, this will be a big topic tonight on Sports Noah TV, Monday night, 6 p.m. WHNO. Tune in. Where does Joe Oliva now stand in all of this? This plays itself out. And look, the one thing that I noticed in Les Miles' comments after the game is that King Alexander told me he wanted me to remain the coach, and Joe Oliva agreed. Okay? Well, Oliva got up and made the announcement with King Alexander standing on the side. That tells me that maybe Joe Oliva's not long for LSU at this point. Let's see, but that'll be one of the topics we'll cover tonight on Sports Nola TV.
Well, it was pretty clear where the decision came from, and it wasn't from the athletic director. And again, this isn't about whether you think Les Miles deserves to be the coach. It's not about whether you think he's a great coach or not a good coach. It's not about whether or not you could have gotten Jimbo Fisher. It's about how it was handled. And that is the issue here, because you can debate the rest of that and have a very good debate about it. Fisher's a great coach. But there are other really good coaches, too, out there if you really think you can better yourselves. But ultimately, the question is, who could you get to better yourselves from a guy that's won 77% of his games, been to 2 national championships, won a couple of SEC titles? That's the question. I'm not saying you couldn't get better, but that roll call to find somebody better is a short one. And unless you could get somebody for sure, then you don't even try it. And I suspect that's kind of what happened. They tried to get their man. They couldn't get him.
I think that's very possibly the case there. No doubt about it. I think that, that was floated out there. And if they couldn't get who they wanted, then the best thing to do is to stand pat. It just, you don't like the way it happened. That's all.
And then the Saints, of course, with I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know if the word miserable is applicable. They got beat. They're just not good. It's that simple. They got beat by a team that was 500. That's better than they are, clearly better up front on both sides. And yet another quarterback had another big game. Only 6 balls hit the ground, 21 of 27. One of those was a pick. So if you're a quarterback, you love playing the Saints. Saints defense got destroyed the first 2 drives. Then they played well, gave up a drive to start the second half. Then they played well. I think overall their defense was a little bit better, Lenny, but they got no help from their offense.
None whatsoever. And look, up until now we have been, critical of the Saints defense, and rightly so, allowing, passer performances at a record pace, yards, points, all of those kind of things that you don't want to see. But let's also look at this. Since the 3rd series of the Tennessee game, and the Giants game and the Tennessee game, the offense was off the chart. For the first quarter of the Tennessee game, the offense was off the charts. But since then, Saints offense has had 30 possessions, okay, and they've scored 5 times. And that's simply not going to get it done. That's a couple of touchdowns, a couple of field goals in there. Not the type of offense you expect. Saints held without a touchdown for the first time in 10 years when they were still playing home games in San Antonio post-Katrina. That's the last time they didn't score a touchdown in a game in a 13-12 loss to the Lions on Christmas Eve of 2005. So it's been that long. Like Sean Payton was still in Dallas, Drew Brees was still in San Diego and about to ruin his shoulder and have his future in limbo. Now maybe his future is in limbo again. Who knows what all of that may take on? But it doesn't get any easier next Sunday with the last undefeated team in the league, the Carolina Panthers, coming to town.
Yes, the Saints have 7 losses, so their chances of making the playoffs are slim and none, and Slim may have left the room already because they'd have to win the rest just to even have an outside chance. That doesn't seem likely given what we're looking at this stage in time. They're a rebuilding team. We said that prior to the start of the year, and that's clearly what they are now, Lenny. So they're going to have to make some long, hard decisions at the end of this season about personnel and about who they're paying.
Well, you can talk about long, hard decisions. Who's making those long, hard decisions, I think, could be part of it as well. Are we going to see, this whole thing blown up, or are we going to see the status quo in terms of the top of the organization giving another chance to put things together for 2016 and beyond?
Well, interesting times to say the least. Pelicans back in action Tuesday night at home against Memphis off of a 1-2 road trip. And, of course, we'll have full coverage at sportsnola.com. Whew, busy week. I'm tired from talking about it.
And by the way, we're talking about Pelicans this week. LeBron and the Cavs coming to town Friday night as if there wasn't anything already going on across the street.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot. All right. That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and now in the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. He's Lenny. I'm Kenny. Have a great week, and God bless you. Make sure we don't do the first take.